This meeting is being recorded.
Hi everyone, a lot of people are joining, so we're going to start in a minute from now. And just like a lot of people are joining, so let's just wait a minute and then we'll start. For everyone that is joining, we're starting in like 30 seconds from now, just waiting for some other people to join, and then we'll start. Okay, Tal, are you ready from your side?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So, hi to everyone. Thank you for joining the first session of the Verbit Virtual Summit. This session is a status update on the core reporting market and existing gaps. We're actually very excited to hear from Strategy and a division of PwC. I'm sure that everyone knows it. And they're going to share their analysis and overview of the core reporting market and current processes. You can submit your questions live through the Q&A feature here within Zoom in the bottom down. We will be taking questions and addressing them during the last 10 minutes of the session. It will really depend on when do we finish, how many questions we will take. With that, I would like to begin the session. We have with us Tal Fish of Strategy and from PwC, as well as Amit, two of the smartest people probably in the market, and they did a very smart analysis on the core reporting market. So Tal, would you like to introduce yourself and the team and then take it from there?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Jacques, and hello, everyone. Very excited to be here and take part in our virtual summit. As Jacques mentioned, my name is Tal Fish. I'm a director in Strategy End. Together with me here is Amit Zeidenberg, a consultant in our team. For those of you who maybe are not familiar with Strategy End, so Strategy End is a leading global consulting firm and is actually the strategic arm of PwC. Together, PwC and Strategy N are one of the leading professional services firms in the world. More than 220,000 consultants, professionals across over 160 states. As for myself, just to give some more introduction, I'm a strategy director in Strategy N located in Israel. I'm leading the local deals and M&A practice. And specialize in commercial due diligence, market studies. I'm also supporting companies in growth strategy and go-to-market strategy. Maybe before we start and going over the market analysis, I was invited today to speak about the overall market. We will see in a second how the market looks like. I just want to give everyone some context about our starting point in this study. So PwC actually conducted a very comprehensive market study, which was focused on the core reporting market in the US. PwC globally and specifically in the US was actually highly involved in many M&A transactions, where we actually supported both bidders and target companies within the core reporting market. So we were able to gain very significant knowledge of the industry, very intimate knowledge of the different bidders, the different players in the market. We know the customers, we know their needs, we know their pain points. And all of this really helped us to to lay out a very solid market view. And it's quite funny because when you speak about the market, about the court reporting market, when we enter this exercise, we try to use some public available data. And it was like if you ask 10 different research companies how the market looks like and what the market size is, then you get 10 different complete answers with a massive range, right? So I hope that this overview will make sense to everyone, and I hope you will find it very useful. Let me share my screen. Jacques, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So let's get into the details. So like I said before, the baseline for this study was based mostly about our experience in the market, supporting all kinds of agencies in their consolidation and rollout strategy. This is actually one of the trends that we see in the market. What you can see here is actually our interview type, our interviews list. You can see who we spoke with. So we spoke with the national, the regional CRAs. We spoke with the small ones. We spoke with transcription vendors, stenographers, legal transcriptionists, law firms, corporate legal departments, including insurance departments, court administrators, and all kinds of associations and people on the board of those organizations, and many other suppliers, whether it's from stenographers or any other digital suppliers in the market. So all of this really helped us to shape our market view and come out with a great view on the market. So let's start. So before we speak about the market, we need really to define how the market looks like. And I think this is already very different between all kinds of public data, which is available out there. But here you can see our methodology to define the total addressable market, the TAM, right? So the court reporting market, from our point of view, is built based on 3 key use cases. The first one is what we call depositions, right? This is court admissible transcript of witness testimony outside of court. I'm sure you're all familiar very well with this. The second use case is the courts. So everything that's going on in the courts, whether it's on federal or state or local level within court in the US. The third use case is what we call here the EUOs, examinations under oath, specifically for insurance. Now, I need one caveat on this one. So when we spoke to the market, many companies sometimes call the positions EUOs. So here we try to do the split and not do double counting. So the regular EUOs, which you're probably familiar with, are part of the deposition. When we say EUOs in these presentations, we mean EUOs coming from insurance companies only. And then there are other very small use cases which related to documentation of legal work. This is also part of the market, but it's, as you will see in a second, this is a very small part of it. In the second row, we can also see the end users of those use cases. So in the positions, eventually, who is acquiring or purchasing this service are mostly the law firms. In some cases, it could be also the corporate legal departments of many organizations. In courts, it's obviously the courts, but it can be also public defenders of the law firms. In insurance, it's obviously the insurance companies. And in the other use cases, you can see below who is relevant. What's also important to note when we speak about the market is what the solution type that there is out there in the market. So for deposition, we have real-time solutions and post-production. Same goes to courts. In EUOs, we see mostly post-production, although real-time, it's kind of a new pilot going out there. And in others can be also both real-time and post-production. Also important to note, and you can see it at the bottom of my screen, that we're not speaking about other verticals like law enforcement, federal investigation. Sometimes they get mixed within the legal space. From our point of view, we're speaking solely about the court reporting market and about those use cases that you see here. So now that we define the market, let's see the size of it. So PwC estimates the inclusive court reporting market to be between $4 to $5 billion. This is the black column that you see on the left. When we separate the different elements, we see two key buckets. One is the supplementary added value services. These are services that usually court reporting agencies provide, such as scheduling, videography, and other functionalities that are provided. The second part, which you see on the right column, is what we call the court reporting itself. Okay, this includes all the court reporting work, and we estimate this to be between 2.8 and 3.5 billion dollars. So this is the market of the court reporting in the US. Now let's look on the market from different angles. The first angle is split the market by key players in the market. As you can see on the big pie chart on the left, the court reporting agencies, they make roughly 90% of the market, between 85 to 95. This means that most of the money that in this industry flows through the CRA. What else you can see is that there are also transcription vendors and digital recording providers. Some of them get directly paid by others. Now, the pie chart that you see on the right side shows you how the money that comes to those agencies split between the agencies themselves and other. So as you can see that the CRAs are left with $1 to $1.4 billion, which makes between 35 to 55%. And the court reporters themselves, they get the bigger chunk of this one. They get between 45 to 65% of the market. So overall, you see it's a 2.8 to 3.5 billion market. With the CRAs, they left with 2.6 to 2.9 billion dollars. So this is the market when we speak about key players in this one. Moving on to the next one, now you can see the market from different use cases. So we spoke about the three key use cases. As you can see, depositions are the biggest use case out there in the market. It's almost 85% of the market goes to depositions. The other big part of it is the courts, between 0.4 to 0.7 billion dollars. And then the EUOs, like I said before, the EUOs that's relevant only for those insurance cases, which are mostly shorter, smaller, priced also different from the usual depositions. They make the smaller part of this industry, between 3 to 7% of the total market. And then another look on the market, this time from solution types. So here you can see that, unsurprisingly, stenography actually makes it's the biggest solution type out there. Between 75 to 85% of the market, of the total addressable market, goes to stenography solutions. Then the smaller part of the market goes to digital reporting. And we also see some voice writing also in this industry. This makes a very small part of the market, between 3 to 7% of the market. If we speak a little bit about the competitive landscape or the types of players that we see out there in the market, so obviously the CRAs, we see a lot of them. They come in different sizes and different shapes. We have big national players, we have regional players, and we have also those small mom and pop shops that are sometimes only 1 or 2 people working in this agency. Overall, we see more than 4,000 CRA across the US. Of course, they change by size, by country, by jurisdiction. I'm sure you can recognize some of the logos that we put here. Other types of players that we see stenography equipment suppliers, we see digital recording suppliers, and we also see what's not here on this slide, we see all kinds of different transcription vendors or legal transcriptionists that are also part of this market, whether these are organized as a company, as an organization, or of course freelancers that serve the market. So like we said before, CRAs, the court reporting agencies, they are the biggest part of this market, and most of the money in the industry flows through them. So in a way, they're like a middleman in most cases, specifically in depositions. And you can see, unsurprisingly, that depositions makes between 75 to 85% of the work illegal. And then you see the courts and EUOs. This is quite similar to how the market looks like, so it's not really surprising. And then on the right side, you can see that, like I said before, this market is quite fragmented, more than 4,000 players across the US. They have a great relationship both with the clients, also with the freelancers. So they work with both sides, and they're doing a good job at it. What's also very noticed in this market about the CRAs that they have a dependency on the freelancers. So many CRAs use stenographers mostly, or in some cases could be digital transcribers. In most cases, these are not employees of the CRA of the agency, and this is why they have strong connections with those freelancers. Let's also speak about the different types of players and their key pain points, because that's also part of the market and very important to understand, because the market dynamics really flows from those pain points. So we see the different types of players that we listed on the left side. Let's start with the law firms. And like we said, this is the end customer, mostly in the use cases like depositions. So law firms actually became quite price sensitive over the years. So one of the key pain points for them is high pricing of the transcript, okay, or maybe the deposition itself. And since the crisis in 2008, we see that more and more law firms, both small and big, all right? So also like law firms from New York, which used to be less price sensitive, now they are more price sensitive. And sometimes they don't purchase extra features that are provided by the agencies. So pricing is also very important to them. They're also, in many times, are concerned with the quality or with the lack of live or rough draft availability. And as we know, in digital today, there still is not a good, solid solution for live or rough draft. And this is why law firms actually prefer the traditional stenographers, the agencies that work with stenography, and this is currently the preferred solution. Let's move on to the insurance legal departments. Okay, like we said, in EUOs, they are the end customer. So similar to the law firms, they are very price sensitive. They work in large scale contracts, and this is why they want to get it right with the contract connected to scale. They're also suffering from lack of reliability. Okay. One typical, I think, thing that you can say about the market, specifically in EUOs, is the no-shows. This happens from time to time, and those insurance legal departments really want to know that they get the comfort that they need in EUOs. In courts, so we see mostly vendors not meeting SLA. So this is one pain point that courts suffer from, which sometimes we see in the market led to a one-strike rule, right? So if you didn't meet the SLA in your contracts, sometimes the court can even take you out of his approval list. So this is also something that you need to be aware of and keep in mind. Also, let's finish with the CRAs again. So CRAs, we see decreasing margins actually. So CRAs have decreased margin following actually the stenographer shortage, which we will discuss more deeply in a second, and increasing cost for the agency itself. And also quality control difficulty. So they have also some difficulty of quality control when they work with freelancers in some cases, and they really cherry pick the ones that they want to work with. So this is an overview of the key pain points of the market, which are very relevant to the market and really set the tone for the market dynamic. So we covered the overview of the market. We discussed the size and the different types of players and their key pain points. Now what I want to speak to you is what we call the digital adoption within the court reporting market. So what we see in the market is that digital recording is actually on the rise. You can see that across the different use cases, whether it's depositions, courts, or EUOs, we see a trend of going into digital. Let me explain the chart that you see here in some words. So what you see here is the total market and the different use cases split by the solution type. So steno, you can see it in red, digital in pink, and voice writing in black. What you see here is the current volume estimate of each of the solutions across the different use cases. So for example, in the positions, you can see that almost 95% of the market works with stenography. So digital makes only between 5 to 10%. On the other hand, you can see that in courts, there's already a big penetration of digital. It makes between 65 to 75% of the volume, and actually steno is the smaller part of the market. In EUOs, we see kind of a mixed picture here. We see that stenography makes between 50 to 70%, and actually digital makes 30 to 50%. What's also important to know that this chart is in terms of volume. As you probably know, the pricing of digital recording and digital transcription is less expensive than stenography. So if we would have done the exercise and switch this chart into value, so of course the part of digital would be smaller, okay? So this is in terms of volume that we see in the industry. And as you can see below, we see the digital trend, it's all green. So we see more and more penetration of digital as we go. I want to double click on court specifically, where I said that digital actually has a much higher penetration rate. What you can see here that out of the 100% court volume on the left, this is the black column on the left, you can see that 10% of it is not digitally recorded at all. This is served by traditional stenographers and not by any digital solution. And then we're left with the 90% that is digitally recorded. As you can see, out of it, between 30 to 45% is recorded, but not being transcribed. Then another chunk is 10 to 20% that is recorded, but still using stenography as the preferred solution for transcription. And then eventually we get to the part that is recorded and digitally using digital transcription. This is only a smaller part of the market. It's only between 25 to 35%, okay? So if I'm gonna go back for a second for this slide, so you can see the courts, we said digital is between 65 to 75%, but the part that is digitally transcribed is much smaller, and it's actually only between 25 to 35%. Now let's speak about the pace of change, which we see three key factors that will ultimately change the world of court reporting and the pace of change going into digital. So you can see the three red boxes on the left, the stenography shortage, the price sensitivity, and the technology availability. And let me go one by one. So stenography is still considered today, no doubt, the higher quality service, but at the same time, it costs more than digital solutions, okay? This is because they are able to produce higher accuracy and a faster turnaround time. For example, they can provide live and rough draft in seconds, which digital is still not there today. But despite the high demand, we see obviously a decline in the workforce. So we see retiring workforce. We estimate it to be between 10 to 15% in the next 3 years. There are many actually public data about this one. And if you ask other people in the industry, they might say it's a bit higher, it's a bit maybe even 2 times higher or less. But, you know, we hear those claims from year to year, and we feel quite strong with our estimate here. What else that, you know, we also see here is also limited new entrants. So as you know, the training is very long. It's around 3 years training, and the attrition is very high. So the shortage is getting deeper and deeper. The second factor that will affect the pace of change is obviously the price sensitivity. I touched it before with the law firms, but also what we see in the US is the government budget cuts, which led actually many courts to seek alternative solutions. So we see them switching from stenography to cheaper solutions like digital recording. And of course, law firms are becoming increasingly price sensitive. This one we discussed before. So this is also affecting the market and affecting their choice for transcription. The third factor that really changed the market is the availability of technology. And as quality of digital recording is improving, and we see more and more ASR solutions or any other digital or technical solutions, this product is becoming more common in the industry, and more agencies and customers prefer to use it. A deeper look on the first one, which is the stenographer shortage. You can see here very clearly that the demand for court reporting stays quite stable in the US market. On the other hand, you can see the chart, you can see the trend of the supply of stenographers. So we estimate that the number of stenographers in the US is around 30K. Again, there are different numbers out there in the market. This is an average, and you can see the shortage and you can see the gap between the supply and demand. And this gap is exactly the place where we believe that digital recording can take place and can take over and can take some places. Now, we say that digital solutions are growing, but how fast? So based on our estimations, when we analyze the market, you can see that we split the market into the 3 use cases. So in depositions, where if you remember, the penetration of digital was the lowest one, we see actually the fastest pace of change. From a volume of around 5 to 10% of the entire deposition market, we see it growing actually to 15 to 20%. Okay, this is more than 2 times, almost triple the market. Then on courts, when we see higher digital penetration today, so the pace of change will be a bit slower, from 65 to around 70 to 80%. And in EUOs, we go from 30 to 50% to 50 to 70%. So if I have to summarize, you can see the depositions is the one that is growing the fastest, and obviously is starting from a lower starting point, unlike courts, which starts already from a higher digital penetration rate, and obviously the pace of change will be a bit slower. So when we say digital deposition solutions, now we can say who can find it very relevant in the market. And we spoke with the different players in the market and asked them, how can you use digital deposition products? So when we spoke with with national and medium regional CRAs, what we see is the following. First, they suffer from stenography shortage and last-minute cancellations. This is one of the pain points that we mentioned before. Secondly, live and ref are highly relevant to them, right? So due to increased presence of the complex litigation cases, digital solutions, and they get more real and more advanced in technology, they can be very, very relevant to them. On the other hand, what we see that some CRAs are actually developing their own solutions, whether it's in-house or remote stenography, and those can be alternative solutions to digital recording. Then let's go to the small CRAs. So the small CRAs, they care most about scaling and flexibility. So providing them with digital solution really can create great benefit to them, where they can use proof, digital transcripts, and gain more scale and have better flexibility. It can also enable them to add more products to their arsenal. So they can provide both steno and both digital solution and can have their choice whenever they need. On the other hand, we see some resistance in the market from many CRAs. So many CRAs are still steno or stenography based. Some of them resist the change. Some of them resist to use digital products. We see it across many different states, but actually many of them are, from our discussion, are willing to use digital solutions. Then another point where digital products can be useful is actually serving the digital or the electronic court reporters. So those DCR or ECR, they're out there. They're working together with the agencies, and in some cases they get the mandate also from the agency to do the transcript. So enabling them to have digital transcript can be a great benefit to them. On the other hand, in many cases, like we said, they're not the decision maker, and this will fall within the CRA. So, like I said before, we see different agencies are switching slowly into digital solutions. And we see, CRAs of all sizes, whether the big national, regional players or the small ones, using other solutions. We can see that CRAs are providing both recording and transcription services. And we can see also that agencies are recruiting actually new workforce to support this revolution. Lastly, what I want to discuss is the different types of products that are out there and how can they change over time. So what you can see here are the three different products that we see both on stenography, and some of them are also relevant to digital. So we have the live product, we have the rough draft, and we have the proofed and signed transcript. And today, as you know, there is very limited demand for digital live or digital rough drafts, mostly because the technology is still not there. And as we said before, only between 5 to 10% of the digital transcription in the position are out there. In the future, if we take 3 years time from now, and if assuming that the technology would be available, then we see a higher increase in the use of live digital solutions. We also see that across rough draft as well. And below, you can see the key prerequisites for this change, okay? And these are the prerequisites that have to be there in order to have a solid digital product. So for live product, we see obviously have to have less than 1 second turnaround time. You need to have around 97% accuracy, and of course, all the formatting requirements. For rough draft, so it's a similar picture, you need to have a very quick turnaround time. Usually it's less than 2 hours. You need to have high accuracy, around 97%. And of course, again, you need to have the right formatting and editing requirements. And then for the proofed and signed transcript, well, you need to have plus 99% accuracy, fully proofed transcript, including all the administrative pages and everything. So this has to be sealed and complete. So that's it from my side. I hope it was very benefit from you, and I will open now the discussion for some Q&A.
Thank you, Tal. As always, was a great session. We'll be taking some questions from the audience now. I have 2 questions already that were sent. So first of all, you're getting very good feedback from everyone. Okay, everyone is a lot of people private, fantastic presentation, etc. So it's very good. So the first question that I saw that they asked, and I think it's important, is what is the effect of COVID-19 for digital core reporting market? Do you think it will push it forward? What is what you guys have found about it?
Yeah, so actually a great question, and obviously something that everyone is talking about right now. So just to be clear, our market research was conducted before the COVID-19. But we did get back to the market, spoke again with the agencies, with the stenographers, with different transcriptionists that work in this industry. What we see actually, first of all, we see there is obviously a decrease in volume, so obviously less depositions, less courts, transcripts, etc. Then we see also actually a switch from stenography to remote stenography. This is also something we see. And what we hear from the customers is that they are starting to realize that you can also have a deposition without the stenographer in the room. And they are becoming more openly to have digital solutions in the room and therefore work with digital transcription. So obviously I would say that this switch to the new normal, the new COVID-19 reality, which probably gonna last a while, as we all know, this actually could be a positive trend on digital transcription.
Another question is like, you mentioned a little bit about the ASR pushing the market. So someone here is asking, how is artificial intelligence going to change the market?
Ooh, AI. It's a good question. I think this goes back to my point about the availability of technology. So if you remember, we discussed 3 factors that will actually affect the pace of change going digital. I think AI and also other technologies that will help creating real-time digital solutions, but also post-production digital solutions that are better in quality, have faster turnaround time. This will obviously can change the picture and provide better and more tight and solid solutions for the agencies to use.
Great. So in that, following that, like there was a question which you will answer it better than me, but what's the, like, will the stenographer profession disappear?
No way, no. So again, I don't know who raised this question, but stenography is obviously still the most common solution in the market, and it's still preferred by most of the end customers. So when we look into the future, we see digital goes side by side with stenography. Still, in the short term, we see stenography being the most common solution, but we think that digital will gain some momentum over time. So definitely, stenography is here to stay.
Okay, last question, because we don't have a lot of times. There were a couple of questions about some of the lobbies in the market, usually steno-oriented, to try to block non-steno depositions. Do you see that as a blocker, or I know that you guys did a lot of interviews according to that. Do you see that that will delay? What is your opinion on that?
Well, we do see it in the market. I think I also mentioned that when we spoke to agencies, specifically with the smaller agencies in the market, we saw some resistance to digital solutions. I think this will remain in the market. There will always be different opinions and different parties and lobbies and guilds out there in the market. But I think, if you ask for my personal opinion, then I think that over time, when technology is going to be better and digital solutions will be almost as good as stenography or even as good as stenography, this will be a trend that will be hard to stop, since it brings also other benefits. So I think eventually, like I answered in the previous questions, stenography and digital solutions will live side by side, whether they like it or not.
Okay, perfect. So I think with that, I know there are a lot of questions, but we will answer to it. Tal will probably send you some of the questions, and people, so we can answer it offline. We're going to finish the session here. We have another session, a super interesting session that follows what Tal has been explaining. We're releasing a technology that, what Tal is saying, in 3 years, we probably are taking the market for now. So hopefully that will help the digital market go forward. So I invite you to assist it in a couple of minutes from now. Tal, thank you so much. Probably, I love the presentations that you guys do, and this was an amazing pleasure to hear your findings on the market. So thank you so much.